Hello listeners, welcome to Mahatma Gandhi Letters. This is an approach to understand Mahatma Gandhi's life through the letters he has written. So continuing, from Londonderry, we would like to remind that when Gandhi wrote this diary, his English was not that perfect. Here young Gandhi describes his journey in the ship to London. We left Brindisi early in the morning. After about 3 days we reached Malta. The ship anchored at about 2 p.m. She was to stay there for nearly 4 hours. Mr. 𝗲𝗏𝗄𝗏 was to come with us. Somehow or other he was very late. I was quite impatient to go. Mr. Majumdar said, "Shall we go alone and not wait for Mr. Majid?" I said, "Just as you please. I have no objection." Then of course we went alone. On our return, 𝗲𝗏𝗄𝗏 saw us and said he was very sorry that we went away. Then Mr. Majumdar said, "It was Gandhi who was impatient and told me not to wait for you." I was really very much offended by such behavior of Mr. Majumdar. I did not try to wash off the charge but silently accepted it. But I know that the charge would have been washed off had I only hinted to 𝗲𝗏𝗄𝗏. Had Mr. Majumdar really wanted to wait for you, he had better not act according to what I said. And I think this would have been quite sufficient to convince Mr. 𝗲𝗏𝗄𝗏 of my having no hand in the doing. But at that time I did not mean to do anything of the kind. But from that day I began to entertain very low opinion about Mr. Majumdar, and from that day I had no real respect for him. Besides, there happened 2 or 3 things which made me like Majumdar the less day by day. Malta is an object of interest. There are many things to see, but the time at our disposal was not sufficient. As I said before, Mr. Majumdar and myself went to the coast. Here we had received a great rogue. We had to suffer a great loss. We took the number of the boat, and to see the city we hired a carriage. Rogue was with us. After driving for about half an hour, we reached St. Juan Church. The church was beautifully built. There we saw some skeletons of eminent persons. They were very old. We gave a shilling to the friend who showed us over the church. Just opposite the church was a statue of St. Juan. Thence drove to the city. The roads were paved. On both sides of the pavement were paved walks for men. The island is very beautiful. There are many grand buildings. Went to see the Armory Hall. This hall was beautifully decorated. There we saw very old paintings. They were not really paintings but embroidered in. But a stranger would not perceive that it was embroidered work unless told by somebody. In the hall were the arms of old warriors. All of them are worth seeing. Having no record, I do not remember them all. There was a helmet, was 30 pounds in weight. Carriage of Napoleon Bonaparte was very beautiful. Having given a tip of $6 to the man who showed us over the hall, we returned. We were obliged to take off our hats when we saw the church and the Armory Hall, as a token of respect. Then we went to the shop of the rogue. He tried to force something upon us, but we wouldn't buy anything. At length, Mr. Majumdar bought the views of Malta for 2 by 6. Here the rogue gave us an interpreter, and himself did not come with us. The interpreter was a very good man. He drove us to the orange gardens. We saw the garden. I did not like the gardens at all. I like our public park of Rajkot better than the gardens. If there was anything worth seeing for me, it was the golden and red fishes in a small enclosure of water. Thence we returned to the town, went to a hotel. Mr. Majumdar took some potatoes and tea. On our way we met an Indian. Mr. Majumdar, being a very bold man, spoke to the Indian. On further talk with him, it was found that he was the brother of a man who had a shop in Malta. We at once went to the shop. Mr. Majumdar had a good chat with the shopkeeper. We made some purchases there and spent 2 hours in the shop. So we could not see much of Malta. We saw another church. That too was very beautiful and worth seeing. We had to see the opera house, but we had no time to do that. We took leave of the gentleman who gave Mr. Majumdar his card to his brother in London. On our return, the rogue again met us and came with us at 6 p.m. We reached the coast and paid the rogue, the good interpreter, and the carriageman. We had a quarrel about the fare with the boatman. Result was, of course, in favor of the boatman. Here we were cheated a good deal. The steamer 𝗤𝗏𝗏 left at 7 p.m. After 3 days of voyage, we reached Gibraltar at 12 p.m. The ship remained there the whole night. I had a good mind to see Gibraltar, so got up early in the morning and awakened Majumdar and asked him whether he would come with me to the shore or not. He said he would. Then I went to Mr. Majid and awoke him. We three went to the shore. Time at our disposal was only hours. It being the dawn of the day, all the shops were shut. It is said that Gibraltar being a free port, smoking is very cheap. Gibraltar is built upon a rock. On the top is the fortification, which to our great sorrow we could not see. The houses are in rows. In order to go from the first row to the second, we are obliged to ascend certain steps. I liked it very much. Construction was beautiful. Roads were paved. Having no time, we were soon obliged to return. The ship weighed anchor at 8:30 a.m. In 3 days we reached Plymouth at 11 p.m. Now was the proper time for cold. Each and every passenger said that we would die without meat and drink, but nothing of the kind happened to us. Indeed, it was pretty well cold. We were also told about the storm but could not see the storm. Really, I was very anxious to see it but could not. It being night, we could see nothing of Plymouth. We had dense fog there. At length, the ship left for London. In 24 hours we reached London. Left the steamer and reached Victoria Hotel via Tilbury Station on the 28th October 1888 at 4 p.m. Mr. Mazmadar, Mr. Abdul Majid and I reached the Victoria Hotel. Mr. Abdul Majid told in a dignified air to the porter of the Victoria Hotel to give our cabman the proper fare. Mr. Abdul Majid thought very highly of himself, but let me write here that the dress which he had put on was perhaps worse than that of the porter. He did not take care of the luggage too, and as if he had been in London for a long time, stepped into the hotel. I was quite dazzled by the splendor of the hotel. I had never in my life seen such a pomp. My business was simply to follow the two friends in silence. There was all over electric lights. We were admitted into a room. There Mr. Majid at once went. The manager at once asked him whether he would choose second floor or not. Mr. Majid, thinking it below his dignity to inquire about the daily rent, said yes. The manager at once gave us a bill of $6 each per day, and a boy was sent with us. I was all the while smiling within myself. Then we were to go to the second floor by a lift. I did not know what it was. The boy at once touched something which I thought was lock of the door. But as I afterwards came to know, it was the bell, and he rang in order to tell the waiter to bring the lift. The doors were opened, and I thought that was a room in which we were to sit for some time. But to my great surprise, we were brought to the second floor. So, dear listeners, this is how Mahatma Gandhi's From the London Dairy ends, and the dairy seems incomplete. In the next episode, we will read some interesting articles that Gandhi has written during his study in London. Thank you for listening. This is Mahatma Gandhi Letters, an approach to see Mahatma Gandhi's life through the letters he has written.